The age of the hands, donor was about 45 when recipient was 22. The tobacco, he remained a smoker. The possible incomplete compliance to drugs. What about the prognosis of other fingers? The hand, the contralateral one. The evolution necessitates stage amputation of 2 fingers on each hand so far. The patient is afraid to lose his hand. And he was told by myself that under 2 circumstances would his allografted hands be amputated. In case of necessity, that means if irreversible rejection and complete transplant necrosis occur, or second, in his own demand, that means if himself assess that the benefit of the remaining parts of his transplanted hands do not outweigh the burden of medical care. So, with hand transplantation, like in other transplantation, chronic rejection and side effects are likely to occur, increasing mobility, affecting the transplants. Grafted hands may need to be removed one day, putting patients back to their status of bilateral amputee. In this case, what would have to be done? Second transplantation, prosthesis. Hand allograft is a remarkable, unique, and efficient care of an amputation, I would say. Till 1 year ago, we were grossly in the honeymoon period of this experience, with long enough follow-up to notice lasting benefits, and still short enough to not face the risks of graft loss and the complication of immunosuppressive regimen. With the first digit amputation in one of our patients, it seems that the honeymoon period is over. We still consider up now the procedure as useful because of the benefits it provides and reasonable concerning the risks. We recommend to reserve the procedure to bilateral amputee, having a strong willingness to have hands again, preferably after a prosthesis trial. Patients have to show patience, compliance, and endurance strength. Patients need to have full information on the risk to lose their hands someday because of chronic rejection and about the complication of immunosuppressive regimen. Finally, they have to be ready to work and risk to have hands for a while, perhaps. Concerning the healthcare team, hand transplantation needs a strong team working constantly in cooperation near the patient, ready to put the hands on and off, ready to follow the job, evaluate the results, amputate grafted hand if needed. This care needs a surrounding society, which is able to provide the adequate financial effort, as well as the patient selection is mandatory. This care is not recommended in an unprepared medical team provider or society. Shared awareness of the couple patient care provider may allow the couple to remain with no regrets when one day a grafted hand would have need to be removed. The story will continue then. The reamputated patient will have to be oriented to a new treatment. This one would be based, as always, on the patient's needs, on his medical status at this time, and on the improvements obtained in the fields of available treatments, second-hand allograft with less immunosuppression, if research advances in this field, better prosthetics with sensibility, and perhaps tissue engineering. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Kazari. No doubt that probably planted the seed for several questions, which we will have time at the conclusion of this session, you're also going to meet Theo Kelts, who is a bilateral hand transplant recipient. To flip sides, to now look at the prosthetic rehabilitation piece of this presentation, I want to introduce Alison Goodwin. Ali has worked as a prosthetist within the UK for over 10 years. Most recently has been working with Touch Bionics, providing upper limb prosthetic services. Alison works predominantly with patients fitted with myoelectric multi-articulating hands and partial hand prostheses. She fits patients in clinics and provides support to other clinics through training and supported fittings to maximize their patient outcomes with multi-articulating technology. Ali?
Thanks, Diane. As Diane said, I'm going to be talking today about the multi-articulated hand prosthetic options that we're looking at here, and how that can be an option for any of our patients. So I'll also have Jason, as Diane said, who's going to be showing how he uses his multi-articulated hands and can tell you about his story. So my multi-prosthetic options have been around for many years now. However, for a long time we had no significant developments within this area. Really, we were offering a traditional, traditional one grip option really for a grasp. So what we found was many people were actually fitted with this type of option, many successfully fitted, but some people also rejected that as a prosthetic option due to the lack of function that it offered them. In 2007, the picture started to change as multi-articulating hands were introduced. These hands can enhance the function that can be available to prosthetic users by offering a wider range of grips available. Since then, the technology has increased further, and in a very short space of time, we've really seen quite significant development in that area, with more and more options available. So what do these multi-articulating hands offer? What we can see is that it's actually mimicking a little bit more the natural motions of the hand. By involving more of the fingers within the grip, we actually are getting a more conformable grasp around the object, creating a more stable grip and a larger surface area to actually support objects. We get a larger number of grip options available. A lot of this is offered through the ability to position the thumb, and rather than being fixed in one position. We have the option for it to be powered and manual thumb rotation, so really to try and get some increased options here to allow the patient to increase their function by adopting the right grasp for the right activity and task. What we also see for the multi-articulated hands is, because the specification and function of these hands is actually quite predictable, we have an idea of what the expectation, what we can expect as clinicians for the outcome of our patients to be, as we know what the hand is capable of doing. And what it also offers to the patient from the bigger picture out with just the hand is that we're seeing a reduction in compensatory motions, again because they can adopt the right grip for the type of activity. They'll be doing less compensatory motions with their elbows, shoulders and the rest of their body. They may have reduced reliance on their side to side, offering the ability to multitask more and use both hands together within an activity. A lot of the multi-articulating hand options are also offering is the ability to personalise the prosthesis. So we can set up different grips that are appropriate for that individual's specific needs and requirements. And also we have the opportunity to be able to engage with more technology as well through things that are available in our everyday lives anyway, with the mobile apps, and we can allow an individual user of the prosthesis to use an app to have an awareness of their signals and their control of the prosthesis by monitoring a graph, which they can access at any time within their day. They no longer have to go to their clinic just to see what's happening with their control. They have the ability to do that. So they have more engagement and ownership of their prosthesis, so they can take some of that control back themselves. But it also works the other way around as well, that some of the multi-articulating hands are offering the ability for using these touchscreen devices, which are coming in more and more in our lives, and that's particularly appropriate for bilateral users. I'm sure Jason can can tell you he's exploring his hand right now, so you can swipe between them the screens and operate that because he's able to interact with this technology. So that's really important from a functional point as well, as technologies increasing in our lives. So we want to look at who these people are, really. We're going to talk about the process to get these successful outcomes. It's great, the technology, or what it can offer, but we also need the individual to be right. So we always recommend, when selecting an individual, that we go through that thorough and detailed patient evaluation, as well as the normal attributes that we'll be looking for within the patient assessment. We really want to hone into the detail of their functional requirements. We want to make sure that we know as a clinician what that patient individually needs from their prosthesis to make sure that we can match that with the prosthetic option available. I've got 2 points at the bottom there that may seem like they're very similar, but I think we saw from hand transplants that patient motivation is so important, and that really translates to being a successful multi-articulating hand user as well. We want the individual to have motivation to use their prosthesis and incorporate it within their daily lives, but as well as that, they need to have that motivation to learn how to use it. The prosthesis, although technology is great, it's not going to do everything for the individual who still have to learn how to use it. Therefore, they have to be willing to commit to the learning process to really be able to get the best function from the prosthesis at that initial fitting stage. And I think we often think that an existing traditional myoelectric hand user doesn't need training in how to use a multi-articulating hand, but really because it can offer so much more functionality and it can have a different approach to activities, then we shouldn't just assume that they'll be okay and get on with it. The importance of training those patients, those individuals, is so important as well, so that they can really maximise the benefit that they're getting from what the new technology can offer. We would always advise using goal-setting approach. We know when using goals that outcomes are improved. So therefore, that's also going to help us get the best result from the multi-articulating hand technology. This should always be agreed jointly between the clinician and the individual user to ensure that that it's relevant to the individual, it's realistic to what they're going to be able to achieve. But goals could also be really useful to enable a timescale to be set for what the patient can then expect their journey is going to be over the coming weeks and months. It can help us track that functional progress also. So to look a bit more about the fitting process, what we would really advise after that patient selection and myotesting process of goal setting, we always advise that the pre-prosthetic myo training is conducted to really get a good grounding of the myo control, because the control is so key to having a successful outcome with prosthesis. So that early investment at that stage can be really beneficial with the long-term results. And then we would advise approaching it with a graded training programme to be able to increase the complexity of tasks that somebody's doing during their functional training with the prosthesis, really looking at working with the core features of being able to use the conformable grip, moving the thumb around to achieve the best positioning for tasks, before then increasing it to more bilateral complex activities, and then looking more to tasks that we can do in a more regular day-to-day activities. And the last point at the end there is really the follow-up. And we see that being so important to ensure that all the work that we've done during the initial fitting and learning process really is translated into people's days and their daily lives, to make sure they really are continuing to get the benefit from everything we know that multi-articulating hands can offer. So for what are the success factors for multi-articulating hands? And really there's no one key success factor. It's a link of many parts of the puzzle coming together. We need the appropriate patient selection. We need a stable prosthesis that's appropriate for the individual and optimally set up for their presentation. We need that socket to be comfortable, to enable them to wear it throughout their, to be able to maximise their comfort and function during the day. But then from a patient training and education perspective, they need to have a good understanding of where they can use that within their daily activities. So really it's the interrelationship with these three parts that are going to get a successful outcome. If any, we know that if one part of that's not quite right, the users are not going to be as satisfied as we know that they can be. And then it's been touched on already, the utilisation of outcome measures. We can use these to really look at the picture of how somebody's using their multi-articulated hand. These will look at individual aspects of it, and they can be used, multiple of them used to get a big aggregation picture of the overall functionality. But I'm sure Diane will tell you more about that than I will. It's more her area than mine, but we certainly would advise using these as well within the multi-articulating specific hand area. And I've added in here just a picture for you of some of the other elements. The outcome tables give us some really interesting insight into how somebody's using their prosthesis and able to track their development over time. But that's just one piece of the picture. You need their personal satisfaction to be there as well. And I think these show you some nice examples of some functional options that people have, with functional benefits that they've gained over using a traditional myoelectric hand, some things that the multi-articulated hands can offer. Something as simple as being able to have the palm of the hand to be able to clap, such a social interaction that somebody can do. So that's one aspect from the functional side of things, and then looking a little bit more at how somebody feels about using a prosthesis, feeling natural, that the control feels natural, and that they feel that they can integrate in how they are perceived in society. And Jason showed me just before we started a really nice picture on his phone that was that just showed this natural approach. Was his newborn son a few years ago now, lying in the palm of his island hand, which just looked that natural part of it, which it wasn't a grasp, but it's showing the satisfaction that somebody can have in just this, how confident they can feel in the use of the prosthesis as well, to hold a newborn baby. So really, just to summarise, we've really introduced. The multi-articulated hands have really had those significant developments over recent years, and it's giving us new benefits to the individual, can really improve the function that they receive and the satisfaction they have with their prosthesis. And to think about how technology has advanced in the last few years, I think we can only imagine where it may come in the future and what further benefits we'll be able to offer to users in the future. Enough about me from the theory side of things. Jason will be able to tell you a little bit more from practicality, since he's been using his multi-articulated hands for 7 years now. So, thank you.
Okay, thanks, Alison. Now, to hear a little bit from a bilateral multi-articulating hand user. This is Jason Koger. Jason, would you give us a little bit of a background about what happened to you and when, and a little bit about your journey, your experience with body-powered and electric prostheses?
So I was electrocuted March 1st of 2008. So 7 years ago, I lost both my arms. I was fitted with body-powered and myoelectrics. The problem with me, at first I went to a prosthetist that did not make a very good fitting socket, so I did not like prosthetics at all until I went to a more advanced upper extremity prosthetist, and then I got very good, very comfortable with my prosthetics. I do wear body powered sometimes, and I wear myoelectric sometimes. The body powered or the myoelectrics are very comfortable, a lot more comfortable than body powered. Body powered I would wear when I do rough type work, if I'm outside in the weather. One of my hobbies, for instance, is hunting. I love to hunt, so most times the weather's raining or whatever, and I'll wear body powered because I don't have to worry about any kind of electric problems. So other than that, I wear my myoelectrics. The myoelectrics again are very comfortable, a lot more comfortable because of having all the straps and cables and all that on your shoulders. So.
Okay, and you're completely independent, is that correct?
I am. I'm very independent. There's the only thing I cannot do is I cannot change dirty diapers. That's it.
Or you choose not to. Could you tell us a little bit about your OT experience? I know there are several occupational therapists in the audience, and you shared a perspective last night with me that was quite enlightening.
So I live in a very small hometown in the United States, in Kentucky. I did have an OT, and she was wonderful, but she had never worked with an upper extremity in her entire life. So she was more of just a person that pushed me to try more things. So I basically taught myself how to do everything that I do. But now that I've seen a lot more what OTs do, like at Advanced Dynamics, they have OTs, and I've seen what they've done. And I'm very jealous of anybody that has an opportunity to go into a upper extremity OT that knows how prosthetics work. So I feel like that I would be 10 times better than I am now if it was if I had the training. So, and I'm very successful as an amputee. There's, like I said, there's really nothing that I cannot do, but it was all on my own, and I think it would have been a lot easier with the right OT.
Thank you. It's an interesting perspective, and I know many of us share the frustration of the fact that OTs really are not trained sufficiently in advanced prosthetics, and that is a real frustration, no doubt, for many of our patients. So that's something I know I'm trying to share as much as I can, and I know many of you in the audience are trying to share to your colleagues as well, as much as possible about the training techniques. And then, last but not least, Jason, when we were at dinner last night and you had the opportunity to meet Theo, we talked a little bit about, right after you lost your arms, and I did not know this until last evening, that the option of hand transplants was actually presented to you shortly after you lost your hands. I wonder if you could share a little bit about that experience that you had and the interaction that you had with the hand transplant surgeon during those first couple of years, is that correct? Right after you lost, when you were exploring what else is out there for you and what direction you might go.
So the first place that I went for to talk about hand transplant was Louisville, Kentucky, which is not very far from me. It's a couple hours from my hometown. I went in and I met a hand transplant recipient. He sat in the room with me and the doctor, and I did not get a very good feeling because every time I asked him a question, he wouldn't answer me unless the doctor said he could. It really made me feel like that he was hiding something from me. Whether he was or not, I don't know, but my gut feeling for me was that's not what I wanted to do. So I went back home. I never thought about it again, and then I had a phone call from Pittsburgh to talk to Dr. Lee, and I thought, I'm going to go talk to him. So I went to Pittsburgh, I talked to Dr. Lee, and with the whole team, all the surgeons, all the nurses, the entire team that does it. And at the end of, I think I was there for 2 days maybe, at the end of my last day there, we sat in this room, and Dr. Lee told me that he felt like I was so advanced with prosthetics that he felt like he would slow me down. Obviously, there's a lot of training. I was going to have to move to Pittsburgh. I was going to have to be away from my family for several months with only taking care of myself. And with me at the time, I had 3 children, so it just really wasn't an option. And I'm not saying that it's just not for everybody. It's just not for me. I'm not saying it's not amazing. It is amazing, but I think everybody has their own personal views. And I think with me having what I have, I'm completely satisfied. I'm completely. I feel like I'm very, very successful.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you, Jason. Okay, now to hear from Theo Keltz. I met Theo about 2 years ago. He is from Austria. He is the second bilateral transradial hand transplant recipient in the world, and he is quite a unique gentleman. He actually has created his own PowerPoint for us today, and Theo, thank you for being with us very much today. And again, I hope we have time after his presentation for some questions specifically for Theo and Dr. Gazarian, since I know this is a topic that's new to many of us, and it's quite exciting. Thank you.
Hello, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Theo Keltz from Austria, and thank you. I can stay here on presentation my situation. Okay, thank you. I have an accident, 1994. I was a policeman, and for my English is not the best. Yes.
Okay.
It's okay for you. You can question later. And I was a policeman, and the terrorist in Austria had give a bomb in the school, and I'm special man for bombs, and I give the bomb outside from the school. He want that maybe 100 or 150 child what going in the school died, and I have give the bomb outside, and I give the stuff 7 kilo, the bomb 7 kilo is one exploded in the school. As you can remember, but it's situation after the explosion. And I came to this school and give the bomb outside, and I go with this bomb, give this bomb in the trailer and go to the airport. Only one station but had X-ray, yes. Not, now is another situation. They had all the provinces have X-ray for the policeman, and you can go to the maybe exploded situation. And I give outside and give the 7 kilo from this stock, give outside, and I give this pipe. There's a pipe pump, yes. He had maybe right. Yes, and I lose my both hands, and I have 6 years. 6 years I have prosthesis, like Jason. And I have a dream in my rehabilitation center, and I wake up with 2 new hands. And I go to the first man was transplantation in Austria, Professor Mannreiter, and they say to him, you can transplant 2 new hands. He said, no, it's not possible. I write over 50 university clinics around the world, and all together write back to me, it's not possible. It's not possible now, and maybe in the future, no. I go back to Professor Mannreiter and say to him, you must transplant 2 new hands, please. And I worked with the prosthesis 6 years. I go back to the police and worked 6 years with the prosthesis in the police, and I came to I don't know. Okay. In the 17th March 2000, I worked in the police, rang the phone. And the other side was Professor Margreiter. And he said, Mr. Krebs, you're coming in our hospital, we have 2 new hands for him. And I go with my wife together with the ambulance to the university clinic in Innsbruck, drive 4 hours, and 50 hours later I wake up and I have 2 new hands. Here is my drive with my daughter together from Austria to China with the motorbike 1994. And he is the picture where I drive with my motorbike with 2 new hands 2 years after the transplantation. But my family is the most important factor in my life and the basic where I feel and save my life. The accident in August 1994, the Renner School in Klagenfurt, Carinthia, this terrorist died maybe 100, 150 children in school. That's why he's and my colleague, Mr. Knaller, will go with me to the airport and he saved my life. And I go to the hospital and amputation the rest of the hands over the behind this hand. And the eye slide is saved. And I'm walking after the accident. But my family is bestowed behind me. After the explosion at the airport in Klagenfurt, I lose 4 liters blood. 4 liters. And the doctor make very, very fast. I come inside. My colleague saved my life, Dr. Knaller. On the rehabilitation in the Reha Center in Doppelbad in Austria, and first stage with the prosthesis, and with the constellation of my hand with the orthopedist, my dream of 2 new hands. I learning with 2 prostheses worked. When you have a target, you will also find will activate. In other words, the one who has a clear target which she absolutely wants to achieve will never complain about it or it. The daily situation for me, the prosthesis and the living on table with my home, and my dream and my vision about 2 new hands became true, and March 17, 2000, 2 hands got successfully transplanted at the hospital in Innsbruck in Europe. The team of doctors, Professor Margreiter, Professor Pisa, he's a woman, the Professor Becklana, Professor Rosenberger, Professor Russell, Professor Ninkovic, Professor Wechselberger, Professor Gabel, Professor Schöller, Dr. Lutz and Dr. Angermann. This is the team of my operation. And this is 18 hours after the transplantation. And I wake up 50 hours later. And 2 or 3 days after the transplantation, I begin with the rehabilitation in the hospital in ISPO. And this is a new situation for me and for all together, for the therapist. And I have 3 therapists, 4 therapists, for 3 physical therapists and 1 this is my daily task. I must go back to work in 9 months. And I'm doing my job 9 months after the transplantation as a police officer in another room, yes. And this is my first test with the motorbike with my new hands. All together say to me, you are crazy. I'm not crazy. Motorbike ride is my hobby. And Professor Husel came to me in the room and said, Mr. Kelz, you are playing piano before you have the accident. I said, no, I cannot play piano. Now I can play piano only for myself. Only for myself. You cannot hear this. And the first visits with the bike by Professor Margareta in Innsbruck. Professor Margareta said, I make with my big team these hands. And I have very, very good to Mr. Kelz. And I sit behind and we drive together around the hospital. He said, I needed a helmet. I wear in the hospital. I write in my second book, My Life with My New Hands. It's a very, very good book. You can order by myself. And I plant in my garden, I work in the garden with, I work, plant the first test with the motorbike after the hand transplantation, 2 years, 9,500 kilometers to the North Cape and back. With my brother together and his son. And yes, it's very, very good. 9,500 kilometers and test with the motorbike and is no problems. And this is my biggest hobby, drive with the motorbike. I drive with my motorbike 2006 around the world. Change the spark plug, I must repair self the motorbike. Snow cleaning is possible. Screws, this is a very good test for me. Dig in bolts and I go swimming. This is the second big hobby. And a little piano with the trompetes and my piano. It's good. And I work in my garage. I make the ground. I must maybe work and I learn in Russian language for my travel around the world. This is very important when you travel around the world with a motorbike. I have a lecture here for meeting, for motivation for all together. And after this transplantation was very successful, I built this little church. I cutting the grass with the sense, with the water cutter. Started on. Now it's going. Now, after the cutting, I must cleaning my house around. Yes, and I have very, very good to experience with my new hands, and I have good experience with the prosthesis. I have better experience with my new hands. I can feel. And after the work, I make a food. All together must come in easy. And I like the left, the right. On. It's very, very heavy. Cutting my glass. I have no problems. And he is my friend from Canada, and we are going together travel with the motorbike. And this is the chief from the police in Austria. And I go 2003 with my motorbike to South America. And I fall down. My colleague was driving with me, helped me. It's a bridge with train and the motorbikes. You must drive very fast. The road is very bad. And I have, on this trip, I broken my hand. This is very, very important. I can say it. My new hand was transplanted. Bruce. This is very important. And my target, my travel around the world with this motorbike, he had 460 kilos. And I go with a big tank, 85 liters. And here I must learn Russian language for this situation. This is Chernobyl, Irkutsk, and all the other towns. Thank you very much for your attention, and all the best for the future.
Thank you, Theo. I do want to make certain there's enough time for questions. There are a couple things, too, I wanted to add to Theo's story. Why don't you take a seat up there, if you don't mind. The duration of rehabilitation and the amount of occupational therapy that's required for someone like Theo. Theo, how many hours of occupational therapy have you had over what period of time?
I have rehabilitation for my hands 5,000 hours from the beginning the transplant to now.
5,000 hours. How long were you in the hospital after your procedure? An inpatient.
I don't understand.
How long were you in the hospital as an inpatient after your hand transplants?
Yeah. 6 years. 6 years after the accident and to the hand transplantation, 6 years on between with 2 prostheses.
Correct, but the amount of time that you were in the in the hospital, 12 months? Several months. Dr. Kazarian, how long post-surgery is it required for someone to be within the rehabilitation hospital? I know that OT is required on a daily basis, 6 to 7 hours a day.
Yes. We get our patient in hospitalization for rehabilitation around 1 year. Around 1 year. And at the beginning, 4 to 5 hours a day, both OT and PT.
So it's a long commitment of time. There's so many other aspects of this experience that I could share, but I want to give some time to all of you for questions. Anyone, please come to the microphone.
May I ask one
Absolutely.
to both of you? Because we well understood the benefits we get from the treatment you get. Let me ask both of you, what is the reason to have not choice the alternative option? Theo, why did you were unsatisfied with prosthesis? And what is his name again?
Jason.
Jason, sorry. Jason, we well understood that you choose to get prosthesis. And tell us again the reason why the surgery option was not appealing you.
My prosthesis, I have the dream, I have 2 new hands, and I want 2 new hands. The prosthesis is very, very good. The time between after the accident and the transplantation, very, very good. I can make very much. The hand is hand, only for me.
So for me, having prosthetics, everything that I think you've seen on the video of him doing, I can do all that too. You know, one time I was asked to be on a TV show called Hawaii Five-0. So when I did Hawaii Five-0, I did the Hookman episode, and they asked me if I could build a sniper rifle. I have no idea. I've never built a sniper rifle before. I had 2 eye limbs, and the first time that they filmed me doing it, I did it perfectly. If you watch the show, you'd see it. And there's so many examples like that I think you have to be motivated. I think you have to want to do it. If you don't want to do it, you're not going to be able to do it. When I first became an amputee and I was fitted and it was not comfortable, I thought that the terminal end was not good, no matter what it was. But once I went to somebody that fitted me the way I should have been fitted, it feels like it's me. I've been blessed to, have these are the new limb quantums. I've been blessed to have limbs since 2008. So I just feel like, there's nothing that I cannot do. I showed Allie a picture of me holding my little boy, and basically his head was laying in my hand, and his body was on my prosthetic. And I have a picture before my accident of my daughter doing the exact same thing, and it looked just so real. I just feel like these are mine. I mean, they're me.
Thank you.
Questions from others? Yes, Michael.
I have a question to you as a surgeon. We see more and more, probably in the US and Pittsburgh, that they do one-side transplantation, and from a prosthetist's view, I think you have to do a lot of things for transplantation. Immune suppressiva, a lot of training, and a lot of time went. And I see if you have one functional hand, one normal functional hand, you can do a lot, nearly everything, with a prosthesis on the other side. So what is your recommendation to people come to you and want to get a unilateral hand transplantation? I know other ones in Austria telling bilateral is the indication for hand transplantation. What is your opinion?
In Lyon, our opinion is there is no indication for unilateral. We don't do it because of the balance benefit risks.
And I think that's definitely becoming more of a trend in the United States as well. Not initially, but now I think it's contraindicated, certainly in my opinion and the opinion of many. The amount of immunosuppression alone is huge. It's significant, and that probably is the largest obstacle. Excuse me, and one of the most serious considerations, obviously.
Sure. It's really interesting to listen you too, because first you are our patients, so you are precious. And second, because in fact, you will say that you have the same problem at the beginning, but you have not the same demand. So I think prosthesis and surgery, prosthetic and transplantation are two different answers for the same situation, but not for the same patients. It's worthwhile to have those possibility, knowing that they answer differently, different situations. And about your question again, the answer would be different one day, depending on how things goes on. If tomorrow we find a way to do transplantation without immunosuppression, the question will be different. If one day prosthetics are even more than today, better than today, the problem will be different.
That actually leads right into my question for Jason. I'm curious, there is a lot of research and funding right now going into trying to find ways to transplant hands without immunosuppression. Is that the main barrier to you? Or was it the therapy, the time away from your kids, your family? If this breakthrough happens, let's say, would that change your thought processes on your decision?
No, I don't think it would change it. The possibility of it having to be re-amputated if something happened is a fear. I thought of all possibilities. Being gone was obviously a big factor of being away from my family. I got electrocuted on March 1st, 2008. I was in the hospital, out of the hospital in 12 days. I drove my pickup truck 12 days after my accident. So, I just don't know where I'm at today, why I would want to go back to all of that relearning everything again, I think there's just so many different things that's in my mind thinking that. So I just feel like I'm successful. I guess I feel like I'm where I need to be.
And indeed you are, Jason. You're very successful, as is Theo, and as Dr. Gazarian was just saying, it's very much dependent upon the individual. Different solutions for different individuals. And what I've hoped to accomplish today, to all of you, and I thank you for your attention, is sharing a bit of both sides of the equation. My goal is to enable someone who has lost both hands to make an informed decision about the choices that are out there, and what I feel hopefully maybe has begun today is to start that dialogue a bit more and take it beyond to other audiences as well. So thank you very much for your attention. Our folks today may be available for additional questions if you have any, but again, thank you very much.